Hello, everyone. Name is Rafa, and this is part of a series that I am starting called Initiative. And we have Mr. Eain, AlwaysPlanAhead Stearns here as our first initiate, I guess. I don't know what else we're really going with. I just like the name. It's kind of slaps, and but the purpose here is just to kind of be really informal, lay back, and I just kind of want to dive more deep and give you a chance to tell your story and have a platform to be able to kind of go in depth about your origins and your journey from, starting out, whatever your video game career or esports career was, getting to where you are now. And then obviously the most pressing thing is this upcoming Saturday match against SolaFide with your team Barrage. But let's start from the beginning. First, you can give a little introduction who you are, and then just tell me, how did you get into League of Legends, first of all?
My name's Eain, known as APA in competitive scene, or AlwaysPlanAhead in solo queue, or two other players, I guess. In competitive, I believe I started in the fall of 2019, and I joined F3 Visuals, if I recall correctly. Team wasn't very good, but I wasn't very good either. We didn't do too well, don't necessarily know where we ended, but we didn't do too hot.
Yeah.
And then after that few months stint, I went and joined Fruition Esports, which is actually like a surprisingly good team for like the players.
Yeah.
We took a few games off of like giants at the time, like Radiance. We even had we got a couple academy scrims at the time.
Yeah. We
didn't do too well in those, but it's all good. And then I moved on to Lotus for a while. But that was right before my Korea trip, actually. I lived in Korea, Bootcamp over there for about a month or so.
Oh,
I think
nice.
like 5 weeks exactly.
Yeah.
So I left Lotus. So this is like during the summer of 2020. Or no, this was summer of 2019. Sorry, I got the years messed up.
That's right.
And then so I went to Korea, came back, and then the owners from Lotus, which was his name was Mitch. He left Lotus before they boomed and made a team called Lucky, which was my first real team that I was like try hard on. I visioned myself as actually good, which was players with Not the Real Philip, Kenvi, which you probably know of.
Kenvi and Tenacity were on that roster, right?
No. This was with Not the Real Philip top lane. I don't know if you know who Philip is.
I think that name sounds familiar.
Kenvi jungle, and then Michinu gone in royalty bot lane.
Oh.
Played with them for a little bit, for I think 2 splits. Then after that, joined Supernova. Obviously went through the Supernova SGC split, and fourth there, went to SG, and then now here I am, Barrage.
Solid. I completely forgot that there's a stint with Lucky, but then going back at that Kenvi, I think, had just rebranded.
Yeah, that was Kenvi's first amateur split ever.
That's right.
I know Philip and me were friends with him beforehand, and we played a small tournament, and we actually won that tournament. It was like really big money at the time. It was like $600 for each of us.
Nice.
And then we won that tournament, and then we convinced him to join an amateur team with us. And
you guys competed in UPL, right?
Yes, we competed UPL. I believe we got second in a close 2-3 match.
Yep. I
forget against which team. And then
I think I actually casted. I think I casted that series now that I remember it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then Kenvi went to 100 Thieves the following split. Excuse me.
You were playing against low key esports.
Low key, yes.
Yeah.
And then I joined Supernova afterwards.
That's right. Oh man. So let's so we've had, let's see, F3 Visual, Fruition, Lotus, Lucky, Supernova, Barrage. So you already, I think you've said already enough about F3 Visual. Shit team. Unlucky. It happens.
I mean, it was my first team. I was bad. The team was bad. It happens. Like, there's always a start for everyone.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. You got to get experience somewhere. But let's go to Fruition, because that was the first time that I heard about you, and I was very intrigued. Because Fruition, who was owned by Andros at the time.
Yes. Andros.
That roster went through so many iterations in a short span of time. I swear, like, players were coming in and out of like a revolving door. And I think the iteration you were on had EXU, who's now at Cloud9 Amateur right now.
If I recall, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
It was when I joined the team. It was Jayton, Matty Moo in the jungle.
Oh, Matty was still in jungle. Okay.
Yeah, Disconnector and Blitz in the bot lane.
Okay.
But then I believe a little bit through, I forget exactly what happened, but Disconnector left the team and Matty went to bot lane as ADC, and EXU came in as jungle.
That's right.
And then shortly after that, I left the team for Lotus.
Gotcha.
Because I thought at the time Lotus just on paper sounded like a really good roster, and Fruition was kind of like a med team. Like, we were decent, but we weren't insane.
Yeah. And you don't have to worry about interrupting me at all. Like, this is it doesn't have to be like I speak then you speak. Like, I want this to be more like you can jump in at any time. So
I see.
Yeah. But yeah, okay. So do you ever know why if like the reasoning behind Matty being put bot lane was because EXU was a better jungler at the time, or Matty was just comfortable role swapping to bot lane?
I believe he was comfortable role swapping, and then our other ADC options weren't that good. Gotcha. I forget their names, but I know we did try another few ADCs, and we never had success with them. So then then Matty spoke up. He's like, "Hey, I can play ADC. It's my off role." So we tried him, and we had success with him. And then we had a few other junglers that were good.
Gotcha.
Namely EXU.
Yeah. So then after the Fruition split, I mean, yeah, that was cool thing about you guys and Fruition were being a super underdog team, and then as you said before, you guys took games off of Radiance,
which was like with Cat Evolved Orange at the time, which is like
the
super big team.
The Polar Ace roster that High was like, all right, let me buy that team real quick. that's a fucking good team, man. So yeah.
They were insane.
Oh man. But then after Fruition, Lotus Esports came around, and if you feel comfortable talking about it, you were the main roster that got flown out to some state. They bought like a gamer house, I think.
Yeah. Well, a little bit that. I actually left to my career trip before that happened.
Oh, gotcha.
So,
okay.
How it started was there was tryouts, obviously, and then I made the tryout cut as their mid laner. As their main mid laner, I think it was Surdy, DMK, me, I think it was Airy, and then I forget the support. But then after that, and then I had my career trip planned for a while, so I let the coach, which is at the time was Coach Mike. I don't know if you know of Coach Mike, a character, to say at least. But yeah, so I told Coach Mike, and he said, okay, about a month through, he subbed me out for Yunbi, and then I just watched their scrims for a bit, and then Yunbi actually went down to their gaming house with that team, and I was over at Korea, so I did not experience it.
Interesting. Yeah. No, I remember when Lotus, and I don't know who was doing their social media at the time, but they're talking about, oh man, I'm at the house getting all the PCs set up, and I'm like, how much money is being spent right here?
A little TLDR of their owners is that they are very wealthy, to say the least. So
yeah,
I know they dropped, and it was an Airbnb, so it wasn't actually their house, but they dropped a fair chunk, because obviously they got desks, they got chairs, they got the PCs, obviously, all the like gear, and then I know it went bad fast though down there.
Yeah. I think we've seen within the past few years in amateur how quickly things can go bad from people who have a lot of money to spend and have no realistic expectations or realizations. I think
Yeah.
we're seeing a little bit of it now again. So,
Yeah, a little bit.
Let's talk about this Korea trip then. So, did you hit up LS or Max beforehand to kind of get an understanding of like what your living arrangements was like, or?
So I went with a what's it called? A friend that lives pretty close to me. He lives in Pennsylvania, and I live in Ohio, so we're connecting states.
Okay.
And then he brought along my friend as a coach as well. His name is Draxier. I don't know if you know of him. I'll type his name out to you in the Discord.
Yeah.
That guy.
It sounds
And
familiar.
then I went with him and another player named Kindle, which is from, I think, LAN, that he knew of, that was also trying to go, and we linked together. And so we lived like pretty close to the Lowell Park, like literally 2 blocks away.
Oh, in
Korea
Seoul.
for about
Okay.
5 weeks. Yeah, in Seoul.
Nice.
It was like 2 blocks away. I walked there to their gaming cafe every day.
Hell yeah.
And then I played for 10, 12, 11 hours.
Dude.
And then I went to some of the LCK games. Actually, it was really fun.
Nice. Dude, 7 ping hits different, man. Yeah.
Oh yes, I know. Even though personally the trip wasn't like that big of a success, but I know mechanically I got a lot better just because I felt how it was to play on like actual like 0 latency, which is insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you're a challenger player. I'm like a hard stuck plat washed up person that now just shouts at games rather than trying to actually play. And when I went to Busan for Worlds when it was in Korea, I played on a gaming PC. Playing Nidalee, playing Rengar, playing Lee Sin on that kind of ping, holy shit, man.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a drug. So I can't imagine like playing stuff like Taliyah or Aurelion Sol.
Oh yeah, it was really nice. I know. That was when I was there is when Kiana has just been like really strong, like with the Demonte, like Kiana meta, like all that.
Yeah.
So I was like spamming a lot of Kiana, and Kiana felt like really, really smooth on super low ping.
Yeah. Oh man. Would you, if you were ever to go to Korea to do a boot camp like that again, is there any way you would do it differently or like structure out your plan?
I would structure it out so that like normally how I went, it was kind of just I was spamming a lot of games and I wasn't really learning. I was just like getting better naturally just by playing against better players and by playing in lower ping. But if I were to do that, I would, even what I do now, because like what I do now in solo queue is that there's this app called Loki GG where it records all your games.
Yeah.
I play a game and then I'll just do like a quick review over what it does or what I did in the game.
Yeah.
So I would try to do something of that and then get like one-on-one, extremely good with like one-on-one coaching, or try to maybe potentially with LS or like any other good coach that I can get my hands on.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely something to look forward to. And maybe something, I mean, obviously it's a lot more difficult with our current COVID
I know
situation. Yeah.
So actually when I was in Korea, I met 2 Denmark people, or 2 friends that are from Denmark named Esben and Batu, and I was going to try to go to Denmark this year, for like roughly around March. But obviously COVID's a thing, so
right.
Can't exactly do that right now.
That sucks. Is the EUS server in Copenhagen or is it just super close?
I forget to where it's at, but the reason I was going near there is because they live there.
Gotcha.
I was just gonna live with them.
Yeah.
And I was just gonna, pay rent, do all that. But yeah.
Okay.
I actually don't know where it's at in Europe.
Yeah, it's got to be somewhere. I think in Germany. I don't know. Fucking EU, man. So but to kind of clarify for, because if let's say if you were to recommend someone else to, if they wanted to go to a trip to Korea, basically cut down on the amount of hours just playing solo queue games, saving hours that to go basically into like personal VOD review, and then scheduling with like one-on-ones with a mentor that can kind of point out mistakes that or things that you can improve on.
Because like I did improve like mechanically, like I said, but my understanding of the game didn't go up by an insane amount, which I wanted to, because obviously, you know, going to Korea cost money, and then spending money for something that I could be doing here for free kind of blows if I'm not improving in every aspect of the game, which is why I kind of listed it as a failure, but not really.
Fair enough. But, you know, as long as you're able to take, you know, the positives and just know what you can improve on from afterwards, I think you can always look at that as a success, you know? So, like, not everything might result directly in a net positive, but it doesn't mean that there's no positives at all in it.
But I mean, I will say, like, just IRL, it was some of the best experiences of my life. Like, because I was 17 at the time, too.
Yeah.
So I was just like 17 in a foreign country with a language that I don't know fluently. Like, I knew very basic words then, and then it was obviously hard to communicate, and then just like living on my own at 17 was just a whole another experience on its own, which I really loved. Like, if I could do it, I would do it again.
There's a sense of freedom and liberation of just being just making decisions on your own, and especially being, you know, it's one thing to be in a country that speaks Spanish or French or Italian because it's Latin root, and so you can like kind of figure out words, but it's completely different. Like there's like no parallels where you can just be like, give me water, and they're gonna be like, well,
if they didn't know, if they didn't know English and they had no idea what I was saying, and a few of them did know, but obviously most of them didn't.
Right. Well, I'm glad you had that trip. That's I think it's a good like coming of age experience, and it's something that helps just kind of develop you better for the real world.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So after this Korean boot camp, and then after Lotus, at some point, off season comes around. You're still working, and then you get into Supernova. And so this roster is Piecake Lord, Odd Orange, you, I think Evan RL and Kled, I believe, or
that was the second iteration of the roster.
Oh, that's right.
When I first joined, it was Pi, Frosty Nomad, Nuclear, and Chime. And then
that's right.
This was right before Chime got picked up for GGS Academy. And then after that, we tried to scramble for a new roster because we weren't really happy with how the roster was leading into. We didn't, so Frosty and Nuclear ended up leaving, and then we formed a roster on me and Pi, which ended up being Odd Orange, Evan, and Kled.
Gotcha. Okay. And then that was the roster that ended by the time playoffs for SGC came to an end around August 2020.
After we lost our Maryville match, like I still stay in contact with all of them from Supernova, even from the first iteration of the team. It's just we stopped playing as a team after that.
That's completely understandable. So
I took a break until Barrage. But what were we saying?
So before we get into Barrage, because now we're getting into teams where I feel like you've built up a lot more synergy, and obviously the fact that you still keep in touch with these players means that you had more of a team dynamic to play around. Because unless there is something that you learned from Lotus, you know, I think we can talk a little bit about Supernova and kind of like what were some of the things that you felt like you improved as a fives player, let's say, versus, you know, what you would do in solo queue?
I know leading into Supernova, there were Supernova tryouts, and I played in them. I think the only other 2 mid laners were Strumps and Firefire. Firefire didn't really play. I don't know if it didn't care or didn't have interest or whatever. So it was really only me and Strumpus. I played against Strumpus, and I did really well for Strumpus. But I ended up didn't getting the spot, which was really blowed for me.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, I realized that the team was struggling, and I asked Lucian to come on to their team as a sub. And I watched Strumpus play, and I would not critique him, but I would like critique him or what's the correct word?
You would shadow him?
I would give pointers to Lucian, the coach, and after Strumpus and Jurassic IQ was on the team at the time.
Oh, that's right.
When they were failing, me and Nuclear stepped in. So I already had a bond with Lucian at the time, and Lucian already kind of trusted me a little bit more than he would any other random player.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think learning off of Lucian, I think Lucian necessarily isn't the best game knowledge coach, but he's a good life coach, and he's taught me a lot about how to speak to people and how to react to criticism. Because normally, if someone told me I was wrong beforehand, I'd be like, "No, I'm not. I'm right." Blah blah blah, and just be stubborn. And now I am a lot more open-ended. So Lucian's taught me a lot about that. And then since we had more trust in each other, he let me draft, pretty much anything that I wanted to. Whether it be Cho'Gath, Nunu Scrims, Nico, any random champion that I said, hey, I think this is good here.
Yeah. I'm honestly really sad I never got to see the Nunu pulled out, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's really only good into Orianna. And there's a lot better champions into Orianna than Nunu,
Yeah.
It's kind of like a last-ditch effort if I'm playing Nunu into Ori,
I just remember seeing the solo queue VODs, and I was like, oh man, dude, if you actually
I
pulled...
still played in solo queue. It's really fun. It's a solo queue champion, to say the least.
Do you still go phase rush? For anyone who wants to try it at home.
On Nunu?
Yeah.
I was going Dark Harvest recently.
Really?
Personally, I don't know what the tech is, but Dark Harvest was really nice. So.
Okay. Well, so if you're still because I know back then I think I don't remember the build, but let's say if any friendly neighborhood casters wanted to mess around and try some tech, what would be your recommended build for trying AP mid Nunu?
For right now, it would be Rockabelt into Sork Shoes into Deadman's would probably be the best 2 core. Then after that, you can either go tanky your AP like Demonic Embrace on 3rd item, or you go what's Spirit Visage? You can go Spirit Visage 3rd.
Yeah. Okay.
And then after that, it's obviously situational to how the game is.
So really, you're just using Protobelt as your main damage item as a kind of like a mid-game spike, and then you just transition into another frontliner. Yeah,
you snowball in, E4, Protobelt forward, and try to get your ultimate off, and then pray to God that you're at such a lead that you can win. Because if you're going to the mid game with the Nunu mid, it's kind of bad, to say the least.
I can definitely vibe with that, and definitely one of those was well, if we're winning with this pick, I guess we could have won with any other pick, but this
it's just fun,
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, so after Supernova, I think Supernova ends overall 4th in SGCC playoffs. And
I was the only one to go to SG that year after Supernova.
Yeah. Did you want to talk about Team Mountain?
I mean, yeah, I'm fine with talking about Team Mountain.
Yeah.
I have nothing but. I know I talk to Plux semi regularly. I talk to Ethan Iconic.
Yeah.
Every once in a while. I didn't really make a bond with Spawn or Gibble. but I know Spawn's doing well in Dig.
Mhm.
I don't actually know where Gibble's at. I think he kind of fell off the face of the earth after.
Yeah,
SG.
a lot of my caster colleagues, I think Cubby has been asking that question a lot. What the fuck happened to Gibble? Like, we don't know
Yeah, because
where he is.
I don't see him in solo queue. He obviously hasn't joined a team. I have no idea. Hopefully he's doing all right, but I have no idea where he's at.
Yeah. So, Team Mountain unfortunately didn't have the best showing at scouting grounds. Do you think that was due to just the matchups of the other teams, or was there was it a team dynamic thing, or
Well, I think our team put together was pretty bad, because if you look at our team, it's Gibble, which is normally a weak side player with not too much of a voice in comms. Iconic, which plays to his top side normally and likes to give resources to his laner. And he's also not vocal in comms. Me, which likes to give resources to players, with like roaming a lot.
Wait a second.
And then Spawn,
who normally
is a
plays weak side.
ADC.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh.
So like if you just look at the team puzzle, essentially, it was pretty bad, because like a lot of times we would give resources to Gibble. Gibble like normally isn't in the carry position, so he isn't too comfortable with that and wouldn't necessarily carry. Then we try with Spawn,
shit.
and then Spawn wouldn't be able to, and then we try with me, and I wouldn't be able to because I'm not normally in the carry position. It's like, oh my god, like what do we do? And on top of the fact, like everyone but me was really quiet in comms, so I was kind of trying to shot call the team, but then I'm not used to shot calling either. So like the team as a unit itself just wasn't put together properly.
Yeah.
Which kind of blowed. I think if you put us on, or any of us players on the different rosters, Ocean, Infernal, or Wind, we definitely show a lot better than what we did on that team.
Yeah, honestly, if you had swapped Gibble and like Niles around, I think both teams would have been better off. With
I
that.
don't disagree. It was just, I don't know if it was poor scouting from the LCS and academy coaches and staff, or what, or like if the staff and Team Mountain wanted to work with specific players or what, but it was not bad, but wasn't the best.
Yeah, I know from watching the name. What was the team that Spawn played for? It escapes me at the moment.
I actually forget. Oh my.
Was it? It wasn't Gerb Nation, because that was Meech.
That was Meech.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it wasn't XT Esports either, I don't think. Was it?
It was Polarace.
That's right.
Was this...
Yeah.
Yeah, Polarace.
Because Polarace had Frost Force, it had Busio in the mid lane. That's right. Okay, yeah. So, like, when we were watching that Polarace roster, we remembered that even though Spawn normally played weak side, because I think they were giving resources to their top laner and Busio a lot, but then Spawn would play Ashe, and he would pop off in team fights. And so, I don't know, maybe the thought was that you and Eain could drive resources into Spawn and he could be enabled, but obviously that never came to fruition. Right?
Nothing panned out.
Yeah.
But I know from at the very start of SG, we were like decent, to say at least, like as a team.
Yeah.
And then as we progressed through the week, we did noticeably get better, like in certain like macro things, or like how we're supposed to play a game. So I'm still very happy with my time at SG, because I know I got better.
That's good.
I know as a team, my team did get better.
Yeah. And obviously, there was good things for, a couple of those players being able to move on to LCS and Academy respectively. And then the next step for you is now on Barrage. And so you have a former Supernova classmate in Pie Cake Lord, and then
returned
Supernova
alumni.
Yeah, returned
fan.
Lucian. Yeah. So with this Barrage roster, what would you say are things that specifically in this team that you really enjoy and or have improved of that is unique from the other teams that you've been on in the past?
I think if we relate this to our Supernova roster, the way we played a Supernova was Orange would play through me, and then me and him would link up together and try to play through Pi.
Mm-hmm.
And we would kind of like as a top 3-man unit try to carry the game. And Evan and Kled would kind of just go even bot lane. Like they were a really good stackside bot lane,
Mm-hmm.
which is good, but me and Pi are not necessarily the most consistent players. Like
Mhm.
we're pretty consistent, but like there's still like the 20% where like we'll just randomly int. And like you can even see that in the Barrage. Like I don't know if you watched some of our games, but there will just be a few plays where we'll just
Hey, man.
randomly int.
I casted your series against Supernova, and that game one where Fnatic had a pretty big tempo lead on Olaf, and then I don't know, you guys in the mid game were kind of I don't know if you guys were
we'll just randomly int.
Yeah, were you just trying to figure out how to grow that lead, or what happened there?
I don't remember the exacts of the game, but I know I really trolled him on my first death. Like when Manny ganked me mid lane against Storm's Rise, and I died.
Oh,
And it was pretty bad for like tempo wise.
yeah.
Because Fan had a really, really big lead
Mhm,
before that. And if I just didn't die there,
mhm.
then the game's in good hands.
Makes sense.
But yeah, so when you look at that roster
Mhm.
versus when you look at our roster, me and Fan try to do the same thing, but Gorka is low-key popping off, and I think Winter's the best support I've played with. So like, I still have Pi in the top lane, which I can rely on if I give him resources, but now I have a whole new bot side that I can rely on where it's like, oh, if we give resources to Evan, even though Evan isn't bad, he wouldn't 1v9. Whereas versus if I give resources to Gorka, he just 1v9 pops off. It's insane.
Yeah, Alex is fucking good, man. He's
Oh yes, I think for how we delayed this for scrims in our last scrim game, he got like 3 quadra kills in the third game of our scrim set.
holy
It was just like
shit.
like he's just 1v9ing. I can actually redo the exact scoreline at the end of the game. He was 23-2-5.
Holy shit.
He was popping off to say the least.
Okay. Damn. Well, that's gonna be that's actually a really hype matchup then going into Value and Apollo and Zeyzal. Gorka and a winner. Wow.
I don't think it's a close matchup, I'll be honest.
That's what I like to hear.
I don't think Apollo and Zeyzal matchup. Even though Zeyzal's world semi-finalist, he's fallen off hard, to say at least. Winter and Gorka will handle them quite fine.
Respect. So, throughout this entire time, bouncing between teams and now, with this Barrage roster, I saw you go a little bit into this discussion with your in the round guest spot with I think it's Biora. I don't remember.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Biora. You started out, and a lot of people know your brand is kind of the Asol Taliyah 2-trick.
Yes.
For what is your goal in terms of finding your identity and play style as a player in the competitive season this year?
Well, I think for me as a player, I want to be a very strong mid laner where I can play pretty much any control mage that you can think of, or on a Syndra Victor, like Ziggs, I guess. You could put him into those, but then also play really well. Like I think already me and Fan have a really good synergy, have insane synergy or mid jungle synergy, and then always have that pocket Asol, the pocket Taliyah, as insanely scary for teams, because I know I played it a lot last SGC, and I've relied on it too much, so I don't want to rely on it too much for this one.
Fair enough, yeah. When you were expanding your champion pool from those two champions, what would you say was the hardest obstacle to overcome during that transition phase?
Well, from when I picked up Asol and Taliyah, like this was roughly season 6 when the first time I actually had Challenger. And then I think from season 6 to season 8, I was an Asol, Taliyah, and Kled 3-trick actually. It wasn't a 2-trick, a 3-trick with Kled.
I do remember your Kled. That's right, yeah.
Which I have whipped out every once in a while, but it's just not that competitively viable compared to the other two. And then from after that, starting season 8, when I started to realize, hey, I'm pretty good, like at a challenger level, maybe I can try to go pro. So I started expanding my champ pool, and the hardest thing to me was learning how to lane efficiently and properly, because when you think about Asol and Taliyah, you think about roaming, and so I would normally on those two champions in solo queue just push like a donkey and roam. So when I started transitioning into playing control mages, it's like, holy, I have to actually use my brain, which I didn't at the time, so it took me a while to learn that, but I think I'm pretty good at those champions now. Like I think I'd say for SG, like Zeyzal was my most played and he was my most banned against. So I think, just learning how to lane properly was a bigger obstacle.
Right. And so like when picking up, I guess, staple control mages like Syndra and Orianna, were either the two champions more difficult than the other, or did it just take like a few games for you to get the reps down?
I mean, in all reality, champions in League aren't that hard, and they're like hitting their spells wasn't hard. It was just figuring out how to not perfect either, but make it the most efficient. Because like obviously if you go into lane and spam all your abilities on the wave and on the enemy team, you're gonna go and leave yourself in a bad situation. So just learning how to be the most efficient when doing those was like a new concept that I haven't exactly explored.
So just managing your wave or managing your mana and being ready to, instead of just shove wave, go to roam, it was more so about actually controlling.
Playing for myself, yes.
Playing for yourself.
And controlling, yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine that's definitely a way different concept to play. Because like you said, champions are not necessarily the hard part, but it's the goal purpose of, or your win con in game that you have to change up. And if you've always played towards one set of win conditions, then changing it can definitely be the struggle.
I think a good plus that I have from playing all those like roaming-esque champions throughout the years is I know how to read the map like really well right now. And I've known how to do it for a while because I was like, what I was good at back then, and now I'm kind of becoming a jack of all trades.
Would you ever role swap to jungle, since you know how to read the map so well? Or
funnily enough, after SG, I was offered to role swap to support for an academy team, and support is basically like normally supports on a team or the shot caller on how to read a map and how to direct a team into playing the game properly. And I was asked to role swap to support, but I didn't necessarily like the role, so I sucked to mid lane and obviously chose Barrage as my team.
I completely respect that decision. But that's very cool. If you had to play support, is there a specific champion that, let's say like 3 champions that you would love to always be able to play in that role?
Oh, whenever I get auto foot support, normally I'll just play Alistar.
Mhm.
I think the champ's kind of fun
Hell yeah.
because you just walk up to someone and W them away. I find it personally pretty funny because it pisses them off a little bit. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily gain you anything, you just W them away.
Yeah.
But Alistar, Rakan, and probably Leona are currently my top 3.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I necessarily explore to expand those options.
Yeah, for sure. I was curious you wouldn't try to force like Taliyah support or even play Pantheon support.
I think the last like champion that aren't those 3 that I listed I played with support was just Seraphine, just because I was like trying to see if Seraphine was a good support. Like this was just when she came out.
Mm-hmm. Well, Seraphine is definitely a I don't even know what to say about Seraphine right now, because it's like a combination of her kit, combination of the items that people have been sleeping on, but now are starting to pick up on going into some of these games. I know Winter put up a pretty nasty Seraphine game. I think you guys had recently. So
yes, we in Barrage were picking it as a 3-way flex actually, and we're putting it mid AC and support.
Oh,
I know even like King played it. C9 King played it today in his academy match.
Academy. That was actually low-key sick. I think do you remember when like double Frostfang bot and support was like a thing?
Yeah,
I think
there's been a few cringe metas bot lane.
Yeah, I think that we're starting to see a potential swing towards that if Moonstone doesn't get changed.
Yeah, I know. Last season there was Sona Lux for a little bit of the season, and it was really obnoxious to play against because I played against that in scrims. So, and just knowing or thinking of like Seraphine Sona or Seraphine Lux or Seraphine Gianna is like really obnoxious to say at least.
Yeah, for sure.
I really hate this. Like, you just have to play better than those champions. You kind of can't just ooga booga fight them.
Yeah.
Because they'll just survive always.
Yeah. It's essentially you have to crush them out by the mid game or you get outscaled. And it's just incredibly hard to just straight up fight them in a 5-on-5 situation once they hit those items.
Once mid game comes, if you're not so far ahead, then you're just doomed essentially because you can't ever fight them.
Yep. Well, the last thing I want to talk to you about is obviously you have a big matchup as Barrage going against SolaFide on Saturday. It is a semifinal for Risen Esports, which is the first tier 2 tournament in the Proving Grounds circuit here in 2021. First, I want to just get your kind of general impressions about the team. Let's just start with that. Just kind of looking at the overall roster.
I think all of them are obviously known players. They're good players, but none of them stand out to me that they are mechanically insane, like from top to support. I know to relate this to the ANEW main roster, when I look at their roster, it's like, oh wow, they have a Viper, 5-Fire, and Value Nanda, and I'm like, wow, all these guys can solo 1v9 carry, which I don't think anyone really on SolaFide can do. I think they're all smart, but I don't think they're all mechanically insane.
And so they can't really play towards a style where, as a new main tried a few times against the new Blaze, and unfortunately it didn't work out for them. They picked ego champions. They just said, we're gonna win every single lane and we're just gonna beat you before 20 minutes.
Picking Vayne versus Lorum is a question mark.
Oh, Viper.
But to think back to SolaFide, I think they are literally above our pay grade with their paychecks. I'm assuming you've heard about.
Yep.
But as a team, they're below our pay grade. I don't think we'll have a problem with them.
Ooh, man. So let's talk about this matchup with you and Tuesday. Tuesday coming from CLG Academy, I think his most recent stint. And now here, how would you say your play styles match up, and what's your expected preview of how it's going to play down?
From the small amount of research I've done, he is a very consistent player, and he likes to, I guess, play for lane is a good term for that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of a play for late game type player, where he's just going to farm up on whatever champion he is, and then come mid game, come late game, he's going to look to roll you with like his accrued CS lead.
Yeah.
And then when you look at me, normally I like to link with my jungle and then go make a positive play somewhere on the map, either top lane, bot lane, or steal some jungle camps, get some vision down. So personally, I think our playstyles are the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
But I think my playstyle is better, and I think my players are better. So
it's definitely worth your investment to snowball the rest of the map. Whereas
Mhm.
even if Tuesday were to somehow pick up a roaming playstyle, that it's better for him to just take kind of the Froggen-esque playstyle of just farm up on a control mage like Victor or Zier, and then just pray for late game.
I was looking at the stats on Leaguepedia for Risen, and I noticed that he is the least kill participation mid laner, and I'm the most. So I think that kind of puts it in a view where like we're kind of opposites.
Gotcha.
So even if he's up 20 CS mid lane, I'm gonna be making his bot lane cry and putting them down 40 CS in 4 plates.
That's definitely a trade. A good trade, I should say. Well, I was it's not necessarily the most explosive mid lane matchup out of I guess just because your playstyles are so completely different. But if you had to play like a 1v1 against Tuesday, and knowing his like champ pool, you don't have to say like specific counter picks, but is there like a champion that you would want to take if you had to play for lane, if that was like the win con?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think we talked about like me expanding my champ pool. One thing about my champ pool is that I do play a lot of weird things. So
yeah,
I think if he whips out any standard matchups, or excuse me, any standard meta mages that he's been picking, like Orianna, Syndra, Victor, I will have a counter to all of those.
Fucking dope. Well, if the situation presents itself on Saturday, then hopefully we get to see it. But I think we have a pretty clear picture of what Barrage's plan overall is with SolaFide. And I don't know if you were watching earlier, there was a Proving Grounds bonus podcast that had...
I was in scrims. But
yeah. Well, your data analyst returned.
He was on there.
Yeah. He basically said, and I'm going to loosely quote, we're going to put SolaFide not even 6 feet, 20 feet underground. So he is...
I don't think... Personally, I think if we've been playing the way we've been playing in scrims, I don't think we'll drop a game to them.
Damn.
I think it'll be a clean 3-0.
Damn. Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to I'm fucking glad that I get to cast that with Cubby. So
nice.
I'm looking forward to an entertaining series. Honestly, I have not settled on what my personal predictions are going to be, and I have to do a little bit more research into SolaFide overall and see what they're doing. But I'm very confident that either way, this is going to be a very explosive series, and considering that with how the ANEW Blazing a new main roster or matchup went down, I think we are low-key getting a preview of the actual finals matchup between you and
Yes,
SolaFide.
that's what I was gonna say, or that was what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Even though I think EGP and New Blaze are still good teams, I don't think they're matching SolaFide. So I think whoever wins my match in the semifinals will win finals.
I would have to agree. I think whoever the winner of this semifinal is should have a less difficult time going into the winner of Evil Genius Prodigies and New Blaze.
I was hoping to face against ANEW. We haven't faced them yet in Risen, and I was hoping to clap them, but sadly lost to their B team, so it happens.
Yeah. Well, if assuming you beat SolaFide and then ANEW Blaze beat EGP, which I actually think could very much happen because
I think it can very much happen as well.
Yeah, I think you and Darkwings would be a very interesting matchup because Darkwings is someone that has come into the space after. All I know is that he won a Red Bull 1v1 tournament.
I forget which team, but he was on a collegiate team, and I knew him from last year.
Oh, really?
I thought he was always good out of like collegiate mid laners, and then I'm happy and glad that I get to potentially face him in finals.
Well, as you said, just clap SolaFide and then you get to potentially face him or Aspect if it is Evil Genius Prodigies that come out on top on that Saturday matchup. But before I let you go, is there any social media, Twitter or whatever handles that I can plug in for you at the end?
For social media, it's really only my Twitter. It's just AlwaysPlanAhead1, and normally tweet about when I'm doing either in solo queue or about let you guys know when I have matches and my opinions on certain things. But that's really my only social media thing.
No Twitch?
I do stream, but not often enough to block that.
Humble man. Okay. Well, I guess you can catch APA on twitch.tv/Risen_Esports this Saturday. And I'm assuming that this Barrage roster will stay through as you guys look to compete in the rest of the Proving Grounds circuit. You can always catch, I think Barrage, whenever their games are not streamed on a main channel, they stream their
Barrage
games.
POV, I believe.
Twitch.tv/BarragePOV. So always catch them there. But I'm going to go ahead and sign us out here. APA, thank you for those who are watching. Have a good night.